Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Teach, Sleep, Repeat. My name is Dylan.
And my name's Hayden.
And this week, we're going to take a look at the question, should we be shortening the school summer holiday?
We'll talk about the rising costs in childcare.
How long is too long off for our kids from school?
And whether shorter holidays would make teacher recruitment and retention even worse.
As always, you can get in touch with us via our socials with links down in the description. If you like this episode, why not leave us a review and share it with one of your friends? Let's dive in. Right, Hayden, straight in. Should we not have a summer holiday?
No.
Okay,
Done.
cool. That's one. Right, that'll do. That'll solve the crisis, won't it? Why doesn't no one have anything nice ever?
Yeah,
That would solve it, wouldn't it?
I think we've made one thing clear from this podcast over the last 100 and whatever episodes, is it's all about a race to the bottom.
Yeah.
We are advocates of racing to the bottom. We should all have nothing.
Yeah.
So
So
easy.
if something's hard or bad or got worse over time, the answer is to make it worse for everyone.
Exactly that. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like I don't actually get it. I genuinely don't understand it. When you look at the situation we're in with summer holidays and stuff. And okay, jokes aside, it's in the public narrative right now, isn't it? It's on media. You see clips. I saw I think her name's Ashley James talking about it on this morning. And people make really good points. It's not a bad point, is it, to say that the cost of childcare during the summer holidays is astronomical. But it just when the answer to that is, so the school system has to change.
Yeah. Well, she made that point, didn't she? She basically said, oh, the school system, it's like it's stuck in the 1950s. And you know what? There are parts of that statement where I'm like, yeah, I say the same thing all the time. There are lots of elements of our school system where it's like, for Christ's sake, can we like modernize it a bit? It's stuck in the 1950s with housewives at home who can look after the children all summer long. That's why it didn't, it used to be fine and we built it around this system and it didn't cost anything because you had mums at home looking after the kids. And now we just don't have that anymore. And I literally was listening to that thinking, yeah, that's true. It is completely different. Everything is completely different now. Like the working lives of families is totally different. To sustain a household now, it really does generally need two people working to do so. And maybe in the past, it didn't need that as much, right? But then to use that to then say, so there's clearly only one answer, which is we need to get rid of this or shorten the summer holidays or do whatever it is so that cost is alleviated. And everyone being like, yeah, that's the only logical way of thinking about that. It's just a bit like, it's a bit annoying. So let's open this conversation up a bit more. Like, is that it? Is that the answer, Dylan? Or can we think about this differently?
I think you've got to think about it differently. There's so much that comes into this. It's like a scattergun almost of my brain goes to 7 different points to make at one time. And it's kind of frustrating because the first thing I think about is the whole retention and recruitment crisis that we've got in teaching. And when you think about teaching and the pros, the good part, it absolutely is a good thing that we get 13 weeks off a year and that we get a 6-week summer holiday. That's a positive of the job that is going to be part of some people's decision to go into teaching.
Yeah.
Because maybe they've got their own children and they think, well, great, I'm saving on childcare. That's going to be a thing. Brilliant. That's cool. But if we just reduce that number of holidays we get because we just say, well, there's a childcare problem. Most people only get 20 to 25 days of a holiday a year. That's 4 to 5 weeks compared to 13 weeks off for their kids. Wow, isn't that bad? If you go to, therefore, teachers should get less holiday, you're going to exacerbate the problem of retention.
Yeah,
People
agree.
won't stay in the job anymore.
Yeah.
So what, if your answer is to just simply say, yeah, teachers get all that time off, they should just be fine with just 10 weeks off a year instead.
Yeah.
Okay, fine, have that opinion. But when you see that recruitment and retention gets even worse because of that, you can't say you wasn't expecting that.
Exactly. It's the same. Do you know what it reminds me of when we talked about VAT on private schools? It's probably the same people that were also saying, no, we shouldn't start charging VAT on private schools because then they can't cope. And we've already got a crisis. We don't want any more of these children leaving private schools. We need families, hardworking families to be able to have this. So we can't take it away. That to me is the same sort of analogy of like, okay, we'll look at the teacher recruitment and retention crisis then, and then use the same logic. If we take away the holidays, we'll have an even worse problem. Like it's the same line of thinking, but people just choose to ignore it because they see teachers and it's like, well, they get more than me, they get more than the average, so let's just take that away. One thing you could do, and I don't think people want the best of both worlds, is if you were to do that, let's say the reality was, do you know what, teachers, I'm really sorry, but you no longer get this much holiday. You still get like 10 weeks. It's still more than the average, but we've taken a few of those weeks off and we've taken it from the summer. I'd expect to be paid then.
Yeah, of course.
For an extra 3 weeks. But people wouldn't want that.
No.
People would be like up in arms at the idea that they're getting even paid even more now.
Yeah.
They're just getting paid to have those holidays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this is the thing that really doesn't go through my head and doesn't make any sense to me is when people say, oh, well, you've got all that time off. As if to say, so you should be doing some work. I'm like, do you understand how paid holidays work? Like Every single person in the country gets paid holiday. And it's one of the pros of our job that you get 13 weeks off. You can still argue, and lots of people do, that we don't actually get paid for all of that holiday, and it's just simply spread across 12 months, etc. That's a whole debate you can have. Some people say we do, some people say we don't. Kind of irrelevant, because at the end of the day, if you've got my teacher contract in front of you, which says 195 days, 190 with the children, 5 days for inset, if you want to add to that,
yes,
there is no situation in the world ever where you go to someone's contract, add days of work, and just say, tough. It's built in. We got to get paid more.
That is the easiest way. I think it's so easy to look at it the wrong way around. It's so easy to look at it as removing extra holiday.
Yeah.
Rather than just adding work days. When you put it like that, I feel like it'd be hard for anyone to argue. So it's no surprise, and the BBC had a stat, and I thought this was really interesting because it really compares parents and teachers, right? That said, there was a poll suggested 53% of parents would like a 4-week summer. Fair enough. Rising to 60% in families with special educational needs.
Yeah.
Well, that's a whole separate point.
Sure.
And the same poll also suggested that a 4-week break is much less popular with teachers, with only 24% in favour of the idea.
Yeah, but like, why are we shocked by that?
Yeah, I know.
Why, isn't it really strange that teachers don't want less time? Of course we don't want less time off. We're human beings.
We know what the narrative is, don't you?
Yeah, of course.
Lazy teachers need their long holidays.
Yeah.
They can't possibly do work like the rest of us hard-working lot.
Yeah, completely. Do you know what? Most teachers, and people, again, don't like hearing this, and it's just that the justification that some people have where they say, if a teacher goes, well, I do all of my work in term time. I'm working 10, 11, 12-hour days. Okay, I'm putting in all my work then. I'm doing lots of extra work for free.
Yeah.
So I justify in my head all the holidays I take because I'm actually still working. And if my contract says 190, 195 days, I am working for free. Because if you want to increase the amount of time I'm in work, you're going to have to pay me more. And the issue comes when we start to compare jobs. And I'm not being funny, okay? Being a teacher pays more than being a shop assistant.
Yeah.
But it doesn't pay as much as being a lawyer. So we have to accept, we cannot just look down. We cannot look at teaching and say, well, people on less money work more and get less. That's true.
Yeah.
There's also people who are on more money than a teacher who work less and more as well. You can't just look at one job to justify your point of view.
Yeah.
Teaching is a well-paid profession, which we're qualified to do, and we spent tens of thousands of pounds getting the qualifications to do it. Okay, that comes with the caveat that we're going to have to pay well.
Yeah.
And if you want to increase the workload for a teacher in an environment where we all agree that workload for teaching is incredibly high and it's a very stressful job, if you're sat outside of teaching going, I just don't get it, it's not fair. You're right, you don't get it. And that should be the end. You don't need to have an opinion on everything. You don't understand how it works. You don't understand how hard teachers are working. And if you simply just look at a different job that's paid less to justify paying teachers less or making them work more, you are a bit misinformed. And you should just not talk about it. Because at the end of the day, if you reduce holidays in total and don't increase the money that teachers get for the job, it's a less appealing job. Recruitment will be harder. Retention will be almost impossible. People who are thinking, should I leave it? Should I not? Well, that only pro that I was actually clinging on to is gone now. See you later.
I agree. And I don't think, in all honesty, I don't think that reality would be. I think people like to cling on to that version of reality because it gets people riled up the most. It gets teachers riled up, and it gets people then riled up at teachers who get riled up. So that's the one people like to spout. I don't actually think. I think that's the bottom of the pile. I think if the summer holidays were going to be shortened, let's say they were shortened to 4 weeks, maybe 5 weeks, right? I think the more popular version of this is that they just move the holiday around. So the working days across the year are exactly the same, but let's say in October, rather than 1 week off, you get 2 weeks off. And I think maybe a long time ago in the podcast, we even like just jokingly said, oh, would you prefer it in a different way? So I'm going to kind of throw it back to you now. It's in this conversation. What would be your reaction, I guess, to both? Like, firstly, would you do option one as a teacher? Would you be happy where you maybe get 2 weeks less holiday altogether in the year, but you do literally get paid for 2 weeks more.
Right.
So your salary goes up.
Yeah.
And you just knock 2 weeks off the summer. Like, what would be your reaction to that one? And also, what would be your reaction to the second one where they just move it around? Would you be happy with either, basically?
Yes, I think I'd sit down and I'd think about both. If you increase my pay, I'd be tempted to do it. But I don't know. I value the time off so much because I liken teaching to like a roller coaster. When you jump on a roller coaster, there's a chunk of it where you're going very slowly and you know you're preparing for what's about to come.
Yeah.
And then you have the whirlwind part, which is just over the top. You're putting your whole life into it, which tends to happen.
Yeah.
And then you slow down again.
And then there's the marking bit at the end when you get off. You have to
Yeah,
mark how the performance was on the roller coaster for hours and hours and hours. Then you have to plan the next roller coaster trip for hours and hours and hours, and that's when you're off the ride. Yeah, a bit like that.
Get rid of all the paperwork. It's like a separate thing. But so I think the holidays are really important. I'd much more go towards the second one if we were going to do anything. And I'd say, okay, shorten the summer holiday, sure.
Yeah.
And then maybe get a couple of weeks in October or a couple of weeks in May and just spread out that holiday. But I don't think the answer is increasing working days.
No.
For two reasons. Selfishly, because of the teacher. And even if you are getting paid, I think that there comes a line where you say, well, but the time off is a pro.
Yeah.
It is a good part of that job. And we take other parts of the job that we might see as a negative and it balances out, right? But I also think because of the kids.
Yeah, definitely.
I think a 6-week summer holiday, I've only got to think back to my childhood, and maybe I was incredibly lucky, but I loved the summer holidays. I absolutely loved having properly 6 weeks off to properly switch off. And I get the arguments that say children don't retain as much over the 6 weeks. It's too long for them. They forget things and then they can't get back into the swing of things at school. And I just think, yeah, but don't care. Because I just enjoyed myself in that time. When I was a kid, 100%. It was the best time ever to properly switch off.
And there's more to it. I was reading the article from the Daily Telegraph. It went. I think it did the rounds online. It
was very clickbaity, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was really. I can't actually remember exactly what it said.
Well, the title was essentially someone saying, "We must end the school hell of summer holidays and get rid and shorten the summer because it's just so." So it was very clickbaity.
Yeah, super clickbaity. Did the rounds. A lot of people read it. I read through the article. I thought the article was actually hilariously quite fair.
Usually the case.
Presented both sides. At the end of it, it was kind of like, so I don't know what's best. What do you think? Okay, whatever. So a very clickbaity title. But some of it was that they spoke to an educational psychologist who's like expert in this field, and they made it very, very, very clear that unstructured time is like essential when you're growing up. So essentially the summer holiday, or just school holidays in general, is like absolutely essential for like child development.
Yeah.
And that to me, I was like, cool, there's enough then.
Yeah.
That's enough then. Do you know what? Forget the whole thing about teachers and pay and stuff. Like, it's literally good for the kids. So let's just keep doing it then, shall we?
Yeah. And I think that comes back to when we're having this conversation, it seems to be driven by one thing, which is how childcare is broken, and I've got to work lots to sustain myself in this society, and it's really bad in terms of money and stuff.
Sure.
And I really sympathise with that.
Yeah.
I really do, because it is a huge burden on a lot of families to find childcare.
Yeah.
But again, I do think, like with that clickbaity title, it's a very nuanced argument, and it's both sides, and it's a really good debate to have. And that article was very balanced because I read through it as well. Yeah. And I think, if anything, it kind of erred on the side of, but we should keep it because it's better in general for the kids, I thought.
Yeah.
But then anytime we see anything, we live in that culture of clickbait, and pitting people against each other. Even going back to that segment on This Morning, where Ashley James was on there talking about she's really, really, really good, like as a commentator on things, and she gets a lot of praise, and rightfully so, because she's very good at what she does. Sure. She gets her point across very clearly and explains it to people who don't necessarily understand different things. And she's a really good spokesperson for so much. But on this, I just think, just missed that opportunity, I think, to just go down the line of, therefore, let's look at the root problem of the fact we need two people earning a full-time wage to sustain a family right now. Exactly. And I think the problem has to stem from that. And if we're going to go down the route, again, it's like what we said when we talked about the birth rate crisis. And she said, very rightfully, people say, if you can't afford kids, don't have them. And her point was, people are, and it's bad. Who's going to be our workforce in the future?
That's the problem.
Who's going to pay taxes? This is a problem.
It's happening.
But do you think that people, if we go to a 4-week summer holiday, will go, I'll have a kid then?
Yeah.
Of course not, because it's rooted in the bigger problem, which is with the workforce and society in general. I just think we're walking down that path of, things have got worse, so let's make everything worse so that it's manageable.
Yeah, put little stickers on things, little plasters and things. Do you know what? I do sympathise with the argument a little bit, just a little bit, because do you know what? If you looked at the two solutions, one is like systemically fix the whole country, which is like catastrophically broken and probably unfixable. Which is not going to happen.
No.
Yeah. Or just put this little plaster on it. It might help a little bit. I genuinely can see why people are doing that, which is why I'm way more sympathetic now than I was even a year ago to the idea of at least talking about changing around the school holidays just for the sake of parents saving a bit of money. It's so hard.
But do they save money? I don't get this either. It just shifts the childcare to another point in the year.
Yeah, that's true. If it's If it's just moving the holiday, yeah, which is why I feel like it always goes back to what people really want is they just want teachers to have less holiday.
Right, yeah.
Because what they really want is their kids to be at school more.
Because in this situation, it's seen as someone's taking the hit.
Yeah.
And at the minute, it's parents taking the hit. Yeah. So actually, people are saying, well, let teachers take the hit.
Teachers take the hit.
They've got their 13 weeks off. Teachers should take the hit. And I just think it's so simplistic.
Yeah.
And even if you think that it's too much in the favor of the teacher, you even if you completely disagree with what teachers say about why it's important and stuff, you have to understand. You have to understand that in this environment we're in right now, if you make the job of teaching less desirable, which is what this will do, you will exacerbate the problem of how many teachers we actually have anyway. So it's fine, do that then. But then in 2, 3, 4 years down the line, when we're struggling more than ever to get enough people into teaching, don't be shocked. Don't be surprised when we go down the route of unqualified people in front of your kids. Because this is what will happen. We'll do these plasters, these sticking, oh yeah, just make that work. Yeah, that's bad. So just, scrap it. Let teachers take it on the chin. Do you know what? Do we even need qualified teachers anymore? That's cheaper, isn't it? Let's just save money, save money, save money. 10 years down the line, don't turn around and say, it's awful, isn't it? We don't have any maths people teaching our kids maths. No, we don't. And do you know why? Because we made the choice, the easy choice, 10 years ago. And look, it's biting us on the backside right now.
Do you know what the slightly easier choice in my head is? That's still a bit of a plaster, but it just makes a bit more sense. And here's my train of thinking, just to be really clear. If you do the whole teachers work more in a year, you are going to have to pay them more. Yeah. It just will not happen. It won't be a reality that they do it and teachers are just like, yeah, okay, I'll just work 2 weeks more a year for nothing. Yeah. They will obviously get paid more. It will cost the government a lot of money. There are a lot of teachers in this country. What they could do with that money that they're about to spend on loads of professional teachers to work too much, they could just use that to help fund people in like just help fund society when it comes to childcare.
Yeah, but the point is they don't have that money in the first place. The government aren't going to do this.
Yeah.
There's not a pot of money sat there, which they would pay for teachers to do 2 extra weeks a year. The money doesn't exist. That's the issue.
Yeah.
So there is no point where the government are saying, yeah, and we're going to pay them for this extra 2 weeks. That's not going to happen. What's going to happen is there's going to be people posting articles online with provocative articles, titles rather, at the top. Going to be people going on talk shows and saying, yeah, it's this and yeah, it's that, and teachers are lazy. And no, we're not. Back and forth, nothing will happen.
Yeah.
Nothing will happen because it can't. There's no money for it to happen. So just suck it up and take it. But I think even when I'm talking about clickbaity stuff, you can see the only role and the only reason this comes up every single year. Sure, there's a cost for parents. Sure, it's a thing that people have genuine opinions on. But every single title or headline or fact I see seems geared up to make a point of one side or the other. Even down to the fact there was that headline stat, which is where this all came from, saying childcare for the summer. Parents are facing a bill for the summer holiday childcare of £1,050. And that's obviously horrendous. Like when you hear that, you're like, that is so much money that people are being forced to spend because the school holiday system is 13 weeks and I only get 5 weeks off in my job. So I'm being forced to spend that much money. But just to make it really clear, that headline figure is the maximum anyone would spend for 6 weeks of full-time care. So that is, sure, it's a lot, but that's 6 weeks of full-time childcare. And if your child is not got anything like for free, no family at all, you've taken no time off work, that's how much you'll spend.
No one to help look after
But
them.
it was presented as if the average parent pays this much every year. No, it's not. And there are some people who have to do full-time care for the 6 weeks, but most people book a couple of weeks off.
Yeah, definitely.
And if you've got children, you tend to have things in place where you can share a bit of childcare. It's not easy. We've got our own kids now. I understand it. But that headline figure, I know for a fact you read it. And you, very intelligent person who's in the education, well, very intelligent. Kind of
I thought, oh, he's complimenting me here. This won't last for 5 seconds.
Too far. But very intelligent. But you still didn't understand it because you saw that and you kind of said to me, wow, that's a lot, isn't it, if the average person's spending that?
Yeah.
And I was like, they're not.
Because it's the classic thing. It's the same thing to me, right? In journalism in general. Like when like a clickbaity title is the same to me as when journalists, very clever people, purposefully, when in the middle of a conversation about how much it's costing parents and how they're struggling to afford things in the summer holidays, when they drop in a stat about that's just like idealistic, that's like, oh yeah, and just casually, this is the maximum that maybe some people could spend in the summer.
Yeah.
When they do that, I'm kind of expecting them to tell me hard facts of like this is what parents are really struggling with right now. The average person is struggling with this. So I hate it when they drop in facts because I just assume they're talking about the thing I think they're talking about.
Sure.
And they're just using the worst version to make it sound a lot worse.
If you were more intelligent, you'd understand.
Exactly. I just need someone to explain it to me, which is why I need you by me all the time. Okay. But I tell you what, one thing in the Telegraph article, going back to that one, that just made me laugh. It was I had to write this statement down with the big capital letters "lol" right next to it. Grandparents save up to 96 billion a year in childcare costs.
Oh my goodness, man.
So just going back to that idea, you didn't really mention it in your list then, but that's another huge thing. And I know not everybody has that family network around them. No. I know that's true. But a lot of people also do, which is another thing to say against the whole, it's costing everybody £1,000 for the 6
Sure.
It's not though, is it?
No, but you know, that is an issue again in terms of, you know, it takes a village to raise a child. We all know that. But some people don't have that village.
Of course.
You know, and especially quite oftentimes, if you're thinking about places like inner city London, professionals move there for their jobs. They have a family because the birth rate is plummeting in London. So even those who do, they're away from grandparents.
Yeah,
they don't have, and they've got to pay.
Oh, it was their choice to move there, wasn't it?
Yeah, I know. It's just like, okay, do you want jobs to?
Yeah,
like in the same breath that you're saying we need to all work harder than ever because we're grafting. Yeah. And if a teacher ever mentions how hard they work, there's always someone out there going, try doing 6 days a week, 16 hours. No,
I'd rather
don't want to.
Yeah.
Well, don't want to do that at all. Try working every single day of the week for 18 hours. No.
Yeah.
Couldn't think of anything worse, mate. And if that's what you think makes you a good person in society, then crack on, mate. But I absolutely have no desire to work 70-hour weeks. So don't come to me like it's a badge of honor, like you're showing off to me.
Yeah, and now you're invalid.
Weird. Yeah, I think you're odd. I work 78 hours a week. Okay. That's strange.
That's terrible. You're all right.
Can I help you? Break?
Yeah, like, geez. I really do hate the attitude of just shunning people's choices, as if like everything about life. I feel like in our culture, maybe it's around the world, I don't know, but everything just feels like the answer is, oh well, you made that choice, so no help for you.
Yeah.
Even when like choices are a bit more complex than that, aren't they? Really, I hate how simplified it gets. Well, it's your choice to have kids. It's like, yeah, do you want a pension?
Yeah.
If we want to go there, okay, let's talk about all of the pros and cons then.
Who's paying tax in 30 years?
It's just not as simple as that was your choice, so it's either black or white. Now you don't get this thing.
Yeah.
No, we need to incentivize people having children. Yeah. So do you know what we could do? We could, people that have to go to London and work, maybe there's a government pot of money we can help to fund these people. Just a little bit. Just the people that don't have the network around them and they've got to work 6 weeks through summer. Maybe we can help those people to bring this cost down a little bit.
And just I completely agree. And just in general, the problem we have is every single thing that costs money. The question is, well, who's paying for that? Am I paying for that? Yeah, probably if you're working 80 hours a week, probably. Yeah, work a bit less. just chill out for a minute, mate.
Yeah, you probably are paying for it. As you pay for so many things in society, for society to function. And funnily enough, having human beings is one of them. Let's maybe just do something to help out.
So on this like discussion that we're having right here, because we basically just spent the last 5 minutes, something we completely agree with.
Yeah.
And I do feel sometimes like I stray from my natural instincts on this, because my natural instincts are always to help people as much as possible.
Of course.
And in the summer holidays, you know, if there are people who do just need that support because they have got to work. Okay, they have got to go to work full time, them and their partner, and their children do need somewhere to go. The government needs to step up a little bit. There's some stuff in place for the poorest in our society, and that's good. I know there's lots of those clubs where they go and get a free meal as well. They spend their day doing some sport or something, and they get their food, and it's a bit of like free childcare for them. And I think that's fantastic. Do you think we're going too far down the route of, oh, well, are we turning into those people we just literally spent 5 minutes mocking when we say, yeah, well, tough, teachers get 30 minutes. Do you want teachers to quit? Yeah, tough, suck it up. Have your summer holidays for 6 weeks. Tough. You got your kids, look after them. Are we too far that side?
I hope not. I hope not.
But are we? Like, we can hope not all we want, but we are basically saying tough.
I don't think I'm saying tough. What do you know what I am saying? There's not one way of looking at this. That's what I'm trying to say. I hope that's come across in this episode. I don't think the solution is to everything to just shorten some holidays.
Sure.
I don't think the solution is just paying teachers more. That might not work. Yeah. I don't think the solution is funding everyone to have 6 weeks off and the government have to find that money. I don't know what the solution is, but I know it's not just the one thing. I know it's not, like you said, I know it's not ignoring systemic problems in society, just completely ignoring it as if they're not the issue, which we all know they are.
Sure.
Right? You know, the whole 1950s thing?
Yeah.
It's like, let's compare it to 1950 then.
Yeah.
Why is it different then?
Right.
What has changed?
Because the school system didn't.
Yeah.
So if it's intrinsically the school system that's the problem, it would have always been a problem.
Yeah, exactly. It has literally not changed. The 6 week summer holiday has been around forever, for donkey's years.
Yeah.
Like, So what's the problem then? It's deeper than this, isn't it? It's not that. So all I want to do is challenge the idea that maybe there's other ways of looking at it. Even with the money thing, do you know what I mean? That's what I mean. I'm not trying to say parents don't have to pay that much. I'm just challenging the idea that all parents are paying £1,000 for 6 weeks, because they're not.
Yeah, they're not.
That's the maximum.
No.
And it is terrible. And do you know what? It's all relative anyway.
Yeah.
Some parents are having to pay £300, and that is £300 too much. That is £300 more than they have, and they have to work for multiple weeks in the summer. Some people have grandparents looking after the kids or family looking after the kids, but they still want to do nice things with them. So it costs money.
Yeah. Do you think then that, I'm just thinking back to what you're saying about like grandparents looking after the kids and stuff. Is it just tough whether you've got that or not? In your opinion, like, because you can't have a government thing that's like, you got your grandparents looking after your kids. No, well, we'll give you some money, and then some do, some don't. Like, is it just simply, basically, what I'm saying is there a point where you have to just say, yeah, well, it does just cost money to have kids?
I don't want to say yes because I feel like I'm then saying, well, it was your choice to have kids.
But I'm picking up basically on the point you just said there about like, and it's not fair that you have to pay for childcare sometimes. It's not fair that it's not all year round and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Is it not fair? Is that not just okay?
Well, it's part of having a kid, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is part of course. Obviously, it's like saying I couldn't turn around and say, oh, it's not fair that I have to pay extra money now to feed my child. So, well, yeah, like you kind of everyone knows that kids eat.
Oh, I know.
Like we do.
Look at my food bill. I've got Rory every 2 seconds going, eat.
We all know that Rory eats. Okay.
My son has his breakfast, and then honestly, 2 minutes later, eat. We have just done that for 50. You have had 2 Weetabix and a banana. And we have just sat eating it for 15 minutes. Eat! Not now, mate. Not now, bruv.
I love him. I love him.
Do you know when you say something ironically? Bruv has come into my thing now. I say bruv ironically.
Right,
and
bruv.
now I say to him, well, come on, bruv. I'm like, I can't say that to my child.
Yeah, what are you
Don't
doing?
do that.
What are you doing? I've never heard you say bruv.
I've never said bruv in my life.
Oh, my days.
Listen to me talk for 3 minutes. That's not a guy who says bruv.
Yeah.
I just started saying it as part of
You just mimic the people around you, don't you?
Yes, I do, bruv.
Yeah, all right, bro.
Yeah,
but
sorry.
Going back to it, look, I just think I'm trying to pitch this in the right way, right?
Yeah.
I just want to have the discussion.
You want your cake and eat it.
That there are
Sure.
that there are more perspectives. To be seen. Like someone, do you know what? No one's said in these articles or whatever. Not that I've seen is go to Finland then, where they have like 12 weeks some holidays, and then come back and it'll feel great. Like maybe just a bit of perspective. I don't know.
Let's go through this right now. So. In the article, I mentioned other countries that have a far longer holiday than us. So we're looking at 6 weeks. Like, I'm at the end of my tether. I can't do 6 weeks because number one, I've got to work, and number two, 6 weeks with a kid. Just saying, by the way, try 6 weeks in a row with 32 of them, trying to teach them how to read. It's tricky, isn't it? So other countries, France get 8 weeks in their summer break. Finland 10 to 11 weeks in their summer. Italy 12 to 13 weeks. Sweden 10 weeks.
It's a lot.
So in Europe, I think us and Germany, maybe another country, where it's 6 weeks, and that is the minimum. And nearly every other country, it looked to me when I looked at the chart, the average was like 9 to 10 weeks roughly you're getting for the summer break. So it's, we're not abnormally long, and it's like, how are we coping?
No.
We are honestly in the worst situation for the length of time children get for summer, and we are still somehow having a debate whether it's too long.
Yeah, I know. Even there are, even the countries in the east, like the really academically competitive countries like China. Everyone thinks of China, right? And Japan. Even they only go really down to sort of like 5 weeks. I think the lowest I saw when I was looking at was 4 weeks, maybe in China. I can't remember.
So Japan 5 to 6 weeks, 4 weeks being the shortest
in certain areas. But realistically, like 6 weeks is on the lower end of the summer holidays. And a lot of places, there's loads more to it. We can't just say so. Therefore, we should be fine. Do you know what? For a lot of those places, it's like they're just dominated by the weather. Like it's so hot in certain weather. Like we can't do school in certain months, and they'll be more condensed in different areas of the year. Yeah,
sure. But I looked at, because I thought to myself, okay, this is interesting. Because of the weather, is it simply like what we're debating? Do we move it around?
Sure.
Do we move the holidays around? And again, England and Germany, very similar, around 190, 195 days, roughly around that of school for the children. And I thought, okay, I wonder if Spain has the same, but because it's so hot, they have all their holidays.
They've just got like a 12-week term.
Yeah, and it's not true. Their children are on average about 20 days less.
Oh, right. Okay.
So they spend much less time in school. France was about 20, 25 days less. Yeah. So what I'm saying is, people in France, people in Spain aren't not working.
Yeah.
People in France and Spain, their children aren't not getting a good education. I think I'm with you, and I'm completely on the same page. I'm playing devil's advocate a little bit before. It's just not as simplistic as, well, this thing is bad.
Yep.
Completely change the system for school. It doesn't have to be that way. And I think most of the comments I've seen on Reels, like what we talked about this morning, on things that have been posted, it boils down to this. school is primarily about teaching your children and education. And the big pushback was saying school is not childcare. Now, look, I'll be perfectly honest. My personal opinion on this is that a big part of school is childcare.
Of course.
And it's not a very popular thing to say, but you know what? We've done 120 episodes in this podcast. I've always said what I think. And often most people agree. And I think on this, most people don't agree. And I'd love to hear what people have to say about this. But to me, we just have to look at the realistic side of this, is that obviously a role school plays is in childcare, because our society needs to function. Our adults need to go to work so that we can have things in our society. How are you going to go to work to fix the road if your child isn't looked after? There has to be some form of that as well.
Yeah.
The primary role of schools is education. Of course it is. But part of school is childcare. And that's why this is a debate that we should be having. Because at the end of the day, 5 weeks paid holiday and 13 weeks off for your children, it doesn't add up.
Yeah.
And I understand that.
Yeah.
But I just don't think it means that's the end of the discussion. You can't just say, well, school's education end. It's like, well, okay. But there are poor families out there who don't have a network, and it's either they earn less because the parents take unpaid time off and they already don't have enough.
Yeah.
Or they have to go and pay for childcare somewhere. And I think it's those middly families who don't necessarily qualify for all of the help, who are on dual income, who are just about getting through paying their mortgage, which has just gone up hundreds of pounds, paying their food bill, which has just gone up hundreds of pounds over the last few years. We can't just say, tough, it's not childcare, because it kind of is.
Yeah.
And we have to have a deep conversation about this. And I think people on both sides dismissing it, I don't think it's useful. And I'm just hoping we can come to some kind of middle ground where it's like, okay, look, we can't just pay children to be looked after all year round.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen. But we can't also just say, tough, other countries don't have more than that and they're fine. Okay, cool.
It's
Great.
not my fault that culture has changed, so that now parents have to work full time just to barely afford the bills, and it's just not my fault that you only get like 3 weeks, 4 weeks paid holiday. It's not my fault that there happens to be 13 weeks school holiday doesn't align with it. It's like, yeah, okay, like you said, we can talk about it though, can't we? Because other countries obviously have different systems and different cultures and different ways of valuing parts of society and parenting and in general. We can probably talk about it a bit more.
And I just think the number one thing I hope people get out of having these discussions is that it is not as simple as just picking one route and going down it.
Yeah.
Like that person who picks one route and says, yeah, tough. It's as it is. We're not childcare, we're educators. Bye. Well, that's not helpful.
Yeah.
It's also not helpful for someone to turn around and say, well, teachers get 13 weeks off a year, just work more. Not going to happen either. It's just not as simple as pick a side and just, forget about it. That's an easy solution. There is no easy solution.
No.
This is something which is going to continue to be every single year coming up in media discourse. And I find the dismissive nature of both sides a little bit disconcerting, because I just think, okay, cool, we're not going to get anywhere then, because we're just fighting each other. And it's just another string to the bow of many things falling apart seemingly in society, where we just accept, okay, cool, things are getting worse. Well, not everyone gets a pay rise above inflation, so why should you? Okay, cool, we all get poorer. Okay, cool, that's your solution. Nice one. Cool, let's just crack on then. And in 20 years, we'll see where we're at, where we're not having enough kids because you just said, it's not childcare. Okay, cool. Okay, or we just do pay the teachers, now we don't have money for something else in society.
Yeah, I like it. Let's not have discussions. Let's just watch everything collapse.
Yeah.
That's probably the best way to do it.
Yeah.
There was actually one final point, one final thing, because there's just one I left to the end because I wasn't too sure how I felt about it, so I wanted to put it to you as well, right? So that educational psychologist that I talked about from the Telegraph article put a few things throughout, and their kind of counter-argument to the whole, it's costing us so much money to put our kids in all of these summer clubs across the year, was that we are becoming obsessed as a society with our kids have to be like super stimulated all the time, and we're picking quite expensive clubs, because we're looking at that stat of £1,000 it being the sort of maximum.
Sure.
The argument here, really, in a nutshell, was, yeah, you could just maybe do the cheaper ones where they're a bit more bored, or just like as cheap as possible. And it's like, yeah, they're not getting to do archery, but they're just, they're in that room. They can do some origami or something. They're just it's the cheaper childcare options. And they were sort of saying we don't have to be obsessed with the idea that our kids can't be bored ever. And I wonder what your thoughts on that kind of line of thinking were.
I think it's a next step in the discussion, because at the end of the day, you can be bored with your kids, but you still have to take unpaid time off work.
Yeah,
you can be bored with your kids, but you still have to book your holiday and stuff. So it doesn't solve the problem.
No, not at all.
But if we're thinking about, okay, cool, well, we're actually probably not going to solve this problem. So we are in this situation where maybe you've taken unpaid leave, whatever it is, you've taken the hit, and that's probably going to be what happens. Okay. Because there's no solution that doesn't cost money.
No.
So
exactly.
we're going to go for that one. Okay, cool. I absolutely agree with that in terms of, again, I'm 2 prongs here. as a kid myself and as a parent myself now. As a child myself, I remember my summer holidays where I spent the day on the trampoline.
Yep.
I remember my summer holidays with my siblings where we'd be in the garden from when the sun got up to the sun got down. We'd make silly obstacle courses. We'd say, right, you got to go through that. I'm going to time you. We're going to do parkour. I'm going to jump against the wall up there and I'm going to kick the ball against it. And if I don't kick the ball against it, that's a 5-second penalty. And you have this imagination and you'd make stuff up and you'd sit on the trampoline and you'd put on shows and you'd make games. Cost absolutely nothing. My mum's sure she had to be there. She had to take time off work.
There's the cost, isn't it?
Right, I get that there is a cost there, but it doesn't have to be a double cost. It doesn't have to be a double hit. And then if I think of myself now as a parent with my son, I see firsthand how I could very easily in a week spend £300-400 doing stuff with him.
Yeah,
I absolutely could, and I can see as he gets older and it's more kind of over the top things like, oh, let's take you archery, etc. Anything like that. I can see how it would rack up. Even currently, he's not even 2. And we took him the other day to a local park. There's loads going on. Like it's a big park where there's a paddling pool and there's a sand pit. It costs like 30 quid for us to go in. Yeah. That's just one day.
Yeah.
And that's if we stay there all day, which we wouldn't because he'll lose interest. And I can see how it adds up. And all I'm saying is I think we have to normalize not making every single day a wow day that costs 50 quid for a family to do. Normalize a week where you're doing something at home. You're doing something that's low cost. And I've seen loads of stuff online, loads of reels that are more and more and more normalizing it. And to me, they're the best bits of content because what they're doing is they're not picking a side. They're not saying, yeah, it's the school system's fault. It's a load of rubbish. And they're not picking the other side. Yeah, well, school, tough. You just got to part with it for your kid. You chose to have kids. What they're doing is, this is the reality we're living in. What can we do to make the most of it right now? And that I think at that point is what people should take out of this. Normalize boredom. Yeah. Oh, my kid's bored. Good. Because I've seen so much research and so much people talking about how from boredom comes the best imagination.
Yeah, definitely.
You can't have that unless you get to the point of boredom. Yeah. What is stimulation if you have nothing to compare it against? Being bored is good.
I wouldn't be smashing you at table tennis every day if I wasn't bored as a kid, just constantly whacking around. Like, that was my little game. You're outside doing some parkour up a wall. I'm inside with the table tennis bat, and just bang it against the wall. See how many times I can do it. How many times can I spin the racket in my hand before I catch it? A little bat.
And what's funny is you've maintained all your table tennis skill. Yeah. No parkour skill left. No, whatsoever.
I've not seen run against the wall. I haven't seen you do parkour in years, my friend.
I think my knee might have bent in half.
That's where you got it from, isn't it? All your parkour clubs.
Yeah, all those videos that I watched about parkour.
Calling you bruv.
Yeah, bruv. Yeah, bruv. If I say bruv enough, it means I can run up a wall. Brilliant. It's fantastic.
Oh man, but yeah, like it's a good discussion to have. I'm glad we had it. We're not sitting here like, oh, I know the solution. Do you know, I don't know the solution. I just know there's a huge systemic problem that's probably realistically underpinning the whole lot. And there are lots of different stickers we can put on them. One of them maybe is reducing school holidays. One of them maybe is moving the school holidays around. One of them maybe is just providing better care or better support for parents that are really struggling to afford the cost of childcare. One of the options is maybe looking for cheaper options of childcare and letting your kids be a little bit more bored. There's so many different avenues you can look down. Some of them feel a bit condescending and patronizing because you might be like, well, obviously I've thought about that already, but it's just a discussion. We're just talking about them.
So to kind of wrap this up and think about it then, from your personal point of view, okay, so and you can split this if you want into two kind of versions of what you think and then as a professional, whatever you want to do with this. Yeah. Throwing it back to you then, next year, if you had control over what decision was made in terms of the holidays, what exact route would you go down?
I think I'm going to surprise you here a little bit. I think the easiest one to help, and I'm thinking about parents here mostly, to help spread the cost is move the holidays around a bit.
So keep the same number of holidays?
Keep the same number, but move them around. I would be open to the idea of going to a 5 or a 4 summer holiday, 4-week summer holiday. And
4 summer holidays? Yeah, that's 24 weeks. I'd be open to having half the year off.
4 summer holidays, 1 in the summer, 1 in the winter. We call that the summer holiday.
Which summer holiday you go? I'm going on my winter summer holiday.
My winter summer holiday, yeah. Oh man, but I'd be open to the idea because I think it's not about me. I think if parents are saying, do you know what, that would just really help me spread the cost a bit rather than having 6 weeks in a row where I've got to find this money.
That makes more sense.
I'd be like, okay, that's fine. I think we should have a discussion because I don't think we can just pretend that won't affect children because it will. Like child psychologists are not out there screaming saying like trying to protect this time for nothing. Yeah. We know that time is really good for children to have away from the formal education.
I'd be interested to see like how much of a difference 4 to 6 makes. Like, I reckon you could probably get most of the benefits in 4 or 5 weeks.
Potentially, yeah.
Like, and you kind of reach that point where...
And maybe adding some benefits. Do you know what? Between those 2 rancid 7-week terms where you have 1 week off, maybe it's more beneficial for kids to actually have 2 weeks off there.
That's such a good point, because if you think about it, the 6-week summer holiday where they're off, most of the time, terms 1 and 2 are huge.
Yeah.
And I've been multiple years where you have a 7-week term 1 week off, and an 8-week term 2. So you go from 6 weeks off to 15 weeks with a week in the middle. And that week in the middle is never enough to fully switch off. So I guess that is like full on, like nothing compared to the most intense roller coaster ride you can think of. I tend to agree with you in terms of I'd be open to the conversation that maintains working conditions and holiday. And if you ever wanted to say, we're going to take some of your holiday away, it would only even be something I would contemplate if people said, oh, and obviously your rate would go up as a percentage because you're working more now. You're working 5% more, whatever it might be. You're working this percentage more, therefore your rate's going to go up by this percentage more. And even then, I'd think about it. I wouldn't necessarily do it. I wouldn't necessarily think, oh, that's a good trade-off there. I think, okay, maybe, potentially, we'll talk about it. But moving it, I'd be very much open to, and because not only thinking, oh, isn't it bad that I'd miss my 6 weeks off, because I enjoy my 6 weeks off. Don't get me wrong, of course, most teachers do. They like that. Some teachers don't, so they'd be like, oh yeah, cool, because like you said, it bumps up your 1 week half term to a 2, and I think going from a 1 week half term to a 2 week half term increases positivity. It's a net gain, which is bigger than the net loss of going from 6 weeks to 5 weeks. So I wouldn't, that loss of going to 6 weeks to 5 weeks, I would take on the chin, because it'd be so much better when it comes to October, or so much better when it comes to May, and you get those 2 weeks to fully recharge and reset. And the kids get less time to forget things. But hopefully, my number one goal is the kids in the summer still get that time to switch off and enjoy themselves, because it is just vital. It is just so good for kids to have that time not in that formal education setting.
I couldn't agree more. Dylan. And do you know what I'd really like to know?
What?
Is what these guys think.
Yeah.
I just wish there was a way that they could contact us and let us know their thoughts on this discussion.
There's a couple of things here, because they could contact us. They could go to our Instagram at Teach Sleep Repeat Podcast. They could go to our TikTok at Teach Sleep Repeat Podcast, or they could email us at teachsleeprepeatpod@gmail.com. But do you know what's really interesting?
Yeah, go on.
No matter which side of this argument they're on, or wherever they fall, if they agree or they disagree, do you know what they could do? They could rate the quality
of
what
this thought. Yeah, of the discussion.
Yeah, the discussion. And they could do that by leaving us a 5-star review.
Yeah. It's weird, isn't it? Because it says rate it, but there is only one option.
Yeah. 5. It looks like there's 5 options.
Yeah, but there's
none of the other ones work.
Very odd. Don't try it. Don't try it.
No.
Don't try that.
Just click 5.
Just trust.
Press rate. Help us out.
Yeah.
And I hope that this conversation, it just gets things going.
Me too.
Okay, and I hope it's fair. I hope they've been really fair here, because I don't want to come across, I really don't want to come across like I'm saying tough.
No, I totally agree. It's a triangle. As long as it strikes that balance between teachers' working conditions, what is beneficial for children, and parents, and the cost of the expense of having children, find the middle ground. I'm up for that conversation.
Or if you're a government, just knock the triangle down. No one gets anything.
Perfect.
How about that?